Hey guys. So today is going to be a bit of a close quarter video. I'm showing you engine bay prep for the 2GR, and even using my cell phone, it is super close and tight in here. So I'm going to do the best that I can for you guys. We're going to go ahead and basically just cover things that you can remove in here and any kind of modifications in the engine bay that you're going to need to do. So first thing, if we start back here in the passenger rear side of the engine bay, you're going to have up here in this little notch, you're going to have cruise control box. Also, you're going to have another part of the cruise control box over here above the motor mount on the passenger side. All of that cruise control stuff can go bye-bye. It's not going to be used for anything on the 2GR. The cruise control for the 2GR is actually run through the ECU. If that is something that you are wanting to do and retain, you'll need to talk to Paul Woods when he's doing your harness, or whoever is doing your harness. There are some things in the harness that need to be changed, as well as a set of resistors in your cruise control stock that need to be replaced, and a little bit of wiring underneath the dash. That's another video that I'll cover on what exactly needs to be done there. But you can go ahead and get rid of all of your cruise control stuff back in here, as well as your cable throttle that would connect right here, runs down, comes over like this, goes all the way down here, and then follows out underneath the car that way. You can take that out, clear up underneath the car all the way up into the front, and then disconnect it from the pedal and remove the throttle cable completely. There's going to be a little bracket right here that's part of holding the cruise control on. That can go bye-bye. Excuse me. You will want to go ahead and retain your ground strap here, as well as the second ground strap that runs up to here. Both of those you want to keep in here, but everything else that's part of that can go bye-bye. Another thing that you'll notice that's not here anymore is the hard line that runs to the brake booster on the 3S and the 5S. That can go bye-bye, or you can retain it. It does have to be modified a bit right here, I believe, where it contacts with the 2GR. I may be mistaken on that, but from what I've read and understand, that it does have some interference issues there. So what everybody else has done that I've seen and that I'm doing is removed it completely. It runs all back under here, brackets there, brackets up right here, comes along and all the way over here to the center and connects to this guy right here. So you can actually get rid of that whole thing and simply run your rubber line down and along the opposite side, driver side, down under all the fuel tank lines, underneath your charcoal canister, and then bring it back up on the other side of the fuse box back here where it connects to the intake manifold right here. So that can go bye-bye as well. Your cruise control wiring, you can pull that through the grommet in the firewall. That's not going to be needed. I'm going to trace it back up as far as I can and probably just disconnect it if there's a disconnect point. Otherwise, I'll just roll it up and put it behind the firewall carpet on the inside and tuck it out of the way. If we keep moving on here, like I said, we have the heat shield here removed that covers all of this stuff. None of this needs to be removed for the 2GR swap, but right here on your return fuel line, if you look at it without this Wilhelm Racing fitting that I've got on here already, there's going to be two little barbs on the end of the return fuel line. The top one actually needs to be cut off. I would suggest getting one of the little roller cutters. It's about yay big. You screw it on, you spin it around, screw it tighter. It takes you a couple minutes and it pops that off. I would not suggest using Sawzall or anything like that. Definitely don't use a grinder where you're going to generate heat, because that is a return line for the fuel. And then his fitting set just simply clamps on, uses a PTFE fitting for the one that I've got, or he sells a kit that you don't have to cut that nipple or that little barb off, and it simply uses a regular rubber fitting that slips over it, and then you clamp it down with a hose clamp. I routed mine a little bit different than what I saw in his pictures. I used the right angle up here rather than the right angle down here on his regulator. It allows me to kind of bring it back, tuck it back behind everything, and bring the fuel line out just perfect there. Then this fuel line is going to go up to the engine. His regulator setup bolts directly onto the OEM filter, so it makes it real quick and easy to install. No modifications, no bracketry, nothing like that you need to use. You can also take off the big, huge, funky U-shaped coolant piping that runs from down here, comes up along here, goes all the way back in, cuts back, tucks up underneath, and comes back up into here. The hose that I have in my other video, from everything I've measured and checked with the engine out, should go directly on here, come right up here and go directly to the motor. So there won't need to be that big, huge U-shape over there. If I run into any problems, I will update in the comment section or in the description on the video, and I'll let you guys know that that is not correct, but everything I've measured should be good to go. You can go ahead and get rid of your old engine bay temp wiring, this big, huge, long wiring that normally clips up underneath the engine bay lid. There's that little temperature sensor there. I'm simply going to take it, wrap it up, and tuck it right back in here. I'm not going to cut any of it out, but I don't believe that that's going to be used for the, excuse me, for the 2GR swap, so I'm just going to tuck it all back and away there. Everything else in here, you will still want to keep your charcoal canister if you are going to use the VSV and evap system. You'll need your fuse box, you'll need your coolant overflow reservoir. All of that stuff does need to stay in here. And one other modification that you have to do is this little guy right here, this plug that has the big round one as well as the little square guy here. That is for your fuel pump relay setup. So the turbo uses, and I believe the 5SFE use a 2-speed fuel pump. So most of the time it's running low speed. If the ECU sends a signal that it needs to get more fuel, it ramps up, kicks on the high speed. The 2GR does not have that. So you actually have to bridge 2 wires on this round plug here. You can either do it through the end. I'm going to end up pulling the pins out if I can figure out how to get them out on this one. It's a little different design, but I'll probably figure it out. What you want to do, if we can get close, sorry about that, I bumped the button on my phone here. You can see you have 2 wires that are blue with a black stripe, and they're opposite corners of each other. You got the one right here, blue with a black stripe, and opposite corner, blue with a black stripe. Those 2 need to be jumped together. So however you want to do it, you want to cut them up here, you want to depin them, you want to simply put a bridge in between them in here on this, doesn't really make any difference, but those 2 wires need to be jumped together so that the fuel pump stays on full all of the time for you. Other than that, there's not really much else to do in the engine bay. You can obviously remove your fuel pump relay setup over here, your coil and igniter that come over and bolt here under the fuse box. Those aren't going to be needed. Excuse me. But other than that, everything else is going to remain in here. So once again, we'll go back to the other side real quick and just do a quick overview. Get rid of the cruise control box, this bracket that sits here that holds the cruise control. You can get rid of this hard line that runs all the way around over here for your brake booster. Your cruise control wiring down here can go bye-bye. Obviously, your intercooler, if you had one over here, is no longer needed. You're going to go ahead and get rid of the big coolant pipe that runs from down here on the driver's side up and over by the fuel filler. You're going to go ahead and chop off the little part on your fuel return line, or simply use his Wilhelm's slip-on fitting. You can get rid of the engine bay temp wiring for that temperature sensor. Regulator down here on the fuel filter again. And you can get rid of your coil and igniter that are below the fuse box. And your fuel pump relay, everything that sits over here in this area for you. That all can go bye-bye. If you guys have any questions on any of that, let me know. Hopefully this video wasn't too bad, but again, little tight quarters here in the engine bay trying to record. I am going to be putting the motor in this weekend, so I will be doing a little bit of video footage on some of the install stuff, some tricks and tips that I've found or that I come up with as I'm doing that. So stay tuned, and we'll go ahead and get those up here soon. Thank you. See ya.